This is the magicwordpodcast.com.
Hello, this is Scott Wells for the magicwordpodcast.com. I want to thank and welcome many listeners who I think are new this week, who have joined the ranks of listeners around the world. After just returning from Blackpool Convention, I know there were some people who just got introduced to this podcast for the first time there. So welcome. I hope that you enjoy this episode we're going to be having here this week, featuring Ken Weber, who is an author of the book Maximum Entertainment 2.0, and we're going to talk to him about that. I want to also thank our sponsor of this week. That is the Winter Carnival of Magic that's coming up on March 7th, 8th, and 9th. We're going to hear from Tom Forgehan a little bit later in this podcast as he tells us a little bit more about that. But if you want some detail on that convention, please go to the convention guide page of the blog at themagicwordpodcast.com, and there you'll have an opportunity then, of course, to find out about all the conventions around the world. If your convention is not listed, please let me know, and I'll be sure to post that free of charge over there on that convention guide page. I want to also thank everyone who are my regular listeners for allowing me to take off a week. Since we had so much content over the past few weeks, I thought I should give everybody a chance to digest what has been posted out there and give you a chance to kind of get caught up on everything then as well. And I appreciate those who have signed up for the pod letter. If you have not yet signed up for the pod letter, all you have to do is go to the magicwordpodcast.com, and there should be a pop-up that will say subscribe to our pod letter, or you can go to clicking on one of the tabs there also. And speaking of our sponsor here this week, which is the Winter Carnival of Magic, I want to encourage anybody, if you have an opportunity financially to support us, we would appreciate that. So this way we can continue to give these podcasts for free to all the magicians around the world and people who have an interest in magic. And if you will go again to the magicwordpodcast.com, there you will find out how you can support us with one-time donations through PayPal or through ongoing pledge using Patreon. Any way that you can help us would be great. And if you can figure out how to leave us a 5-star rating on iTunes, that will be great too. Apparently some people are having some difficulty trying to do that, and I'm not sure how I can assist you with that. But I think if you just do a little bit of Googling or figure out, I think you could figure it out. Please leave us 5-star rating. We haven't had any ratings for quite a while, but that does help our podcast grow. Listen, this is going to be a very full podcast. I don't want to take up much more time here on the front end. I'm just going to jump right in over here and introduce our guest. While I was at the Magi Fest earlier this year in Columbus, Ohio, I had an opportunity to sit down with Ken Weber, and we have been talking over the years from time to time, and so you've heard his voice as part of some of my regular convention updates or reports whenever I've seen him, like at the MINDvention, or whether it's been at the Magic Live or at Columbus Magi Fest or elsewhere, wherever we've been. I will often have a few minutes with him, but I always wanted to sit down and chat with him for a more extended time to talk with him, because he is a consultant for magicians and helps improve their act. And of course, his book, Maximum Entertainment, was an important book in it should be an important book on your library shelf, and 2.0 has taken it to another level yet. So I would suggest that you get that book. And if you don't have it, perhaps you might win it, because we're going to have a contest, which I'll tell you more about on the back end of this, where you might have an opportunity to win a copy of Maximum Entertainment 2.0. Compliments of our guest this week, who I'm going to introduce right now. Please welcome Mr. Ken Weber here on The Magic Word. Today I have with me someone who I've been wanting to talk with for a long time, someone who is well known within the mentalism community in particular, magic community in general. And last year at the Magi Fest in Columbus was was it last year or the year before? I think was a featured speaker.
I think the year before.
The year before, yeah, in 2021, what's this, 2024? Then now here we are in Columbus at the Magi Fest then. And he was talking about his book, which many of you have, which is Maximum Entertainment, and then Maximum Entertainment 2.0, which which takes everything just a step further. One of the things that I've always found interesting about, and also his background really is in finance and also in investments, and that's, you have your own company for investing and everything,
Weber Asset Management,
which is completely separate then from magic then as well. But if you guys need someone to help with managing your money, give Ken a call. And so here's my guest then today, Ken Weber. Hey, Ken, good to see you, man.
Scott, we've done this once before years ago, and I'm glad you thought it's worthy to do it again.
Well, I think it is for us to actually sit down and have actually a proper conversation, to let everybody kind of know a little bit more about you, and just kind of, because I remember one time there was a dinner we all went to at Magic Live, and that was with you and me and Banachek, and I think maybe Bob Cassidy and John Stetson. I'd forgotten who all was there. Do you remember that?
Well, if it was Cassidy, we're talking several years ago.
Oh, yeah, that would have been like 15, maybe 2015. It was a long time ago.
Okay, yeah.
How long has he been gone, actually?
Ooh, it's 5 years. You put me on the spot here.
Yeah, it's been a while. That's true. We'll just say that. And he has been somebody who's been influential, just as you have been then as well with what you have been teaching and talking about. And one of the things, too, I was going to say is that your philosophy is something that hasn't tracked with mine and some speakers, and that is you advocate using a handheld mic, where I like right now we're using a wireless mic as opposed to a handheld.
Well, the book is, okay, so the book is Maximum Entertainment. The subtitle is Director's Notes for Magicians and Mentalists. Mm-hmm. And it's, 280 pages, and that's two paragraphs. No, I think it might even be 2 pages within 280
within all
pages.
Of that, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's one of the things that I do talk about. You're right. A lot of magicians do. That's one thing they remember. And I have converted many professionals from not using a handheld to using a handheld. Mm-hmm. They say once they understand how to do it properly, they'll never go back.
And what is the proper way of doing it?
Well, it's in the book, but basically, well, let's back up. A lot of magicians say, but I'm a magician. I need my hands. There's no way.
That's my point.
Yeah. There's no way I can do it. And my point, and Eric LeClaire and many other, I just mentioned him because he performed here at Magi Fest, say what I say. Every trick can be blocked to either have the mic on the mic stand, your hands are free, or you have one hand and you can do stuff with your other hand. One hand holds the mic, or for a short period of time, very short, you can put the mic under your arm, mm-hmm. like that, which you can't see, but in your armpit, right. Take it out. That's for a very short time. Or you have the holder around your neck, which is my least favorite, but a lot of guys use that. But if it's around your neck, and those have improved greatly, great flexibility. They're dark. They're very small. You don't even know they're there. You put it in and out very quickly. It's easy. And you have that handheld mic. And of course, what you guys now have, which I didn't have when I was in mentalism full time, the wireless handhelds are much better than ever. Mm-hmm. So, you got reliability. They're small. They're easy to hold. So you
don't have to worry about the cord.
Not worrying about the cord.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But even like Max Maven was telling me, he was strictly handheld, and he said he always, right up to the end, preferred the corded, not the cordless.
Really?
Yeah, he said he felt there was a slight improvement in the sound quality with a corded.
That's interesting.
Microphone.
Must have been a real audiophile, because that was such a fine difference.
To me, I couldn't really hear a difference, but I'm just bringing it up.
But some people do.
That he did hear a difference.
Huh, okay. Yeah, because I remember Terry Seabrook using that line whenever he would try to fiddle with the cord, saying, I had more cord than this when I was born. And, cause it was kind of shorter. He's pulling it along or whatever.
And there are techniques that, you can look awkward with a handheld, or you can get used to how to do it properly and nobody ever notices.
Yeah. If you're going to be using one of those gym cracks or, thing that goes around your neck or whatever, then you might as well just be using a regular wireless, mic.
No.
But no?
No.
Okay.
No, because again, if it's a gym crack, you have the handheld mic, and the whole thing about using a handheld mic. I can't believe this is the first topic we're talking about. But I follow the lead, Scott.
Yeah.
The whole thing is especially for a mentalist or any performer who has people come up on stage, mm-hmm. you have far greater control. Nothing drives me crazy faster than to see the magician have the ear mounted piece.
Yeah. Around by the mouth.
Yeah. Around by the mouth, immobile. It's not going to go anywhere. Hi, what's your name? and what brings you here to Dallas today? And we can hear the magician and we can't hear that person, which is an insult to that person, as opposed to handheld. And again, you can't see me, but I'm miming holding the mic to here as I'm talking. And then you angle the mic to the person so that they are equal to us in terms of audio. Conversely, when that person is doing or saying something that you don't want heard, the mic comes away and you have control of what's going on. And as I point out in the book, you have control in terms of
stage whispers.
Sorry?
Stage whispers.
Stage whispers. Yes, that's something else. Mentalists can use that effectively, but you can talk very loud and move the microphone away from you, or you can get very soft. And when you're talking into a handheld and it's been properly set up, there's nothing more effective
than whispering and taking pauses.
But don't forget, when it's an immobile microphone around your face, nothing ever changes. It's always 1 inch away from your lips.
All fantastic ideas, and you might be converting me on that then as well.
I won't.
But I do like,
and I'll devil's advocate myself right here. The ones that are around your ear, why can't I think of the word? The headset microphones. Not a lavalier, the headset microphones. They have improved greatly. And so you do have more
those Countryman type brand or whatever.
And they are better than they used to be. So
Soundheiser.
When you lower your voice or you speak loudly, the systems are better. So I'm talking against myself now. I'm playing devil's advocate. So yes, folks who are listening to this, yes, you do get some of that effect, but still, you will never have the sound of just visually. When you hold the microphone away from you, and you see me, Scott, I'm holding my hand away, I'm miming it far away, and I'm projecting to the entire room. It's an effect. People understand what's happening. I'm talking to all of you directly without even needing this microphone. Oh. And then when I come here, because I have something rather important to say, what just happened has never happened before.
And you can't do that with a over-the-ear mic.
Not the same way. Not the same way.
Because of your body actions and how you got blocked.
And whether it's the electronic effect of doing it further or close, or visually, there's a visual effect to bringing it close, bringing it further away, which adds to the moment.
Well, also, I like the idea of how that you can control the audience. Although there could be a mic on the stand, you can still have the mic over the ear, but they can talk into the mic. They can hear them. However,
at the very least, when you have somebody on stage, listen, my friends, if you get nothing out of this podcast, and promise we're going to talk about a lot of other things.
Yeah, I do. We got an hour.
But if you do nothing else, at least if you bring people up on stage, volunteers from the audience, spectators, have a microphone for them on a stand. If they're going to say more than 5 words. If you just need them to stand here and, hold a balloon or something.
And that's the worst use of a volunteer, in which you're having them as a prop table.
A prop, right. Which is another page or two in the book.
Okay.
Right. But if there's a reason, thank you. If there's a reason to have a person on stage and they are going to say something, have a mic on a mic stand at the very least.
With Maximum Entertainment, you just said there's 2 pages on that, 2 pages on this. There are so many different tidbits and things in there that can almost be lost. That's why I want to kind of pick up, some of the...
Let me give you the best. So I get a lot of compliments now.
As you should.
Thank you. But one of the best compliments I get is when a professional sees my name on a name tag at a convention. You're Ken Weber? Yeah. I carry your book with me. It's the only book I carry. I can tell you, Scott, a good number of professionals have told me that when they travel, on the road with them, it's the only book they carry, because if you read it once, that's fine. But the professionals have read it 3, 4, 7 times, and they're constantly marking off different parts. Yeah. And because what applied to them or didn't apply to them, a year ago, now applies to their show the way it's structured now.
So they were reading it before and applying some of these things, and then they go back and it's kind of like, oh, now if I put this in.
This other tip makes sense to me now when it didn't a year ago.
Exactly. And is that why that you came out then with 2.0 to have? Several
reasons. I swore I was going to write one book.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. There will not be a 3.0 no matter what I say.
Never say never.
What happened is that I wrote the book. It took me 2 years to write it. And then slowly I started to see things. Oh, I should have said this, or I should have worded that differently. The 2.0 is about 80 pages longer than the original. So there's like 80 pages of new material that I think were important. And then I tweaked almost everything. Much of it you won't even recognize if you read the book and you read the 2.0, but it's tweaked. It's a little easier to read, or it's clearer. You know, the points are made in a little more direct way. So I spent 2 years writing the original. I spent 2 years rewriting, doing the revised version, revised and expanded version.
So are you saying that if you're going to be buying one, you don't necessarily need to have both, just get the 2.0?
Oh, if you buy one, you only are going to get 2.0 because it's everything that's in
number
the original.
One.
Right.
Plus more.
Right. Plus more. That's why it's not called,
have a different title.
It's not called Maximum Entertainment 2 because that implies, a brand new book.
Series.
It implies a series or a brand new book. Whereas thanks to software, 2.0 of Windows means it's Windows, just the latest version of Windows. Yeah. So 2.0, and my dear friend Joshua J says, Ken, please don't call it 2.0. But I didn't have an alternative. I thought about all other ways of saying it. But 2.0, because of software, we understand it's that, but it's the evolution of it.
Right. Well, why does Josh say?
I don't know. Josh, I love Josh.
I know you do.
He's smart. He's smart. I never got over that he said, please don't call. I think because it became cliche is what he was saying.
I see.
So I gave it a lot of thought. What else can I call it? I couldn't come up with a better version. So we went with 2.0. And I'll put in a plug because I just said that to somebody this morning. It's the same price as it was 22 years ago when the original came out, $40.
$40 still?
Yeah. Yeah. So,
and available pretty much every place.
Pretty much every bookstore.
Is it published by Vanishing Ink?
It's not published, and Josh never forgave me for not publishing it through Vanishing Ink. I had complete control in the first book, and I decided, as much as I love Vanishing Ink and several of the people, in the field, my friend Guy Bavley taught me how to deal with Murphy's directly. And, so I basically got it published, and I got to tell you, Murphy's every few weeks keeps sending me checks. Yeah. It came out, the 2.0 came out, it's
8 years ago.
No, it's like 5 years ago.
Was it just 5? I know it's before COVID.
Yeah. And, they keep sending me checks because the magic shops and stores around the world keep selling it. So, it's kind of nice to know we're approaching 10,000 copies sold, which apparently is not common in the.
It's not.
And I don't go and do tours. I'm not lecturing. I'm not doing anything it just keeps selling.
Do you not lecture? Well, except at conventions. Was the Magi Fest the only places you've actually lectured?
Well, Josh is a friend. He said
MINDvention, maybe.
MINDvention, I did the 18-minute thing. I'm thinking of Magic Live, where I did the 18-minute thing.
Yeah, no, I thought you did something in MINDvention for Danny Archer.
Years ago.
A long time ago.
Yeah. But yeah, so I don't do tours. I mean, most people sell their books, going to clubs and all that. And I don't do that because I'm too busy with other things.
Okay.
So it's
your own life.
Yeah, it's word of mouth. And I'm so pleased. And Scott, I was just going to tell you that you were right there when we signed up for registration for, what are we at? Magi Fest.
Magi Fest, right.
And the guy in front of me, who I didn't know at all. Yeah. You handed me my registration tag and he sees my name. Oh, you're Ken Weber. Oh, I'm a big fan. Big fan. And I'm not bragging, Scott, but I'm just telling you, when the book was published, I've told the story a number of times, and I went to Magic Live and Guy Bavley said, Ken, bring some of the books. You can put it in my booth. He had a booth, for Guy Bavley. And, I put it on the corner of a table. I knew Guy and two other people at Magic Live, 1600. The mentalists kept to themselves. We didn't go to magic conventions. I knew Max Maven, Guy Bavley, and a guy named Andy Levis, who's like a part-time performer. That's it. Mm-hmm. And now, because of the book, what just happened in front of your eyes,
right? That's right.
happens all the freaking time. The worst, it's gratifying. The worst part, and I'm lowering my voice because I know this will pick up.
Yes.
The worst part is I forget who they are because they come over to me. Ken, I met you last year.
Hey, good to see you.
Yeah, great to see you.
I know.
Thank God that the font on the tags is fairly legible from a distance.
Whenever I have on Facebook judged
but wait a minute. Any of the people who are listening, I'll remember you.
You remember exactly.
Yeah, the people who are listening. No, I remember.
I know all of my listeners also, each and every one of the 10,000 people. So.
I know you do.
I love them all. And
except that one guy you told me about. Remember that
we don't
one
talk
guy.
About him.
We don't talk about him.
But yeah, certainly, a lot of times I feel kind of like Paul Harvey. I'm walking down the hallway, and then people will turn around and say, "I know that voice."
Yeah.
They may not recognize the face until they hear the voice. Oh, I've heard that. Kind of a thing. Same thing, like if they see your name, say, "Oh, you're Ken Weber." Then because, as you say, you're not out lecturing, you're not really on the social media. You're on TikTok. You said all the time.
That had nothing to do with magic.
But yeah, okay, that has to do with finance, I guess, and everything that you're talking about. Then
it's political stuff.
Oh, political stuff.
Keep it separate.
That's fine. Well,
I have like 3 separate lives.
Yeah.
I have political life. I have my financial Weber Asset Management, which is a good company, and it's been going for 35 years. We manage hundreds of millions of dollars for other people, which also started as a hobby, just like my magic world did. Now it grew into a business.
Yeah.
And then I had the magic things, that I still love. When I'm here, this is all I want to do.
How do you balance all of those things? I mean, as a part-time professional mentalist.
I'm not really a mentalist anymore. I basically.
Well, you were. I mean, I'm kind of partially retired also. But.
Yeah. And every once in a while I'll do something for, small groups. But, it's funny. I'll just tell you quickly. I'm not comfortable in front of small groups. I'm only comfortable in front of large groups.
Really?
Because that's how I made my living for 17 years.
That's interesting. Some people have a fear of public speaking.
I know. That's why I brought it out. That is, I'm backwards that way.
Yeah.
If I'm asked to do something for 3 people, like a close-up thing, my hands will shake. If you ask me to walk in front of 800 people to do my act, it's like walking into my office.
You're more confident?
Because I've done that hundreds of times.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And that's my bread and butter for all those years.
Yeah.
Close up, my hands will shake. I can't, that's not my comfort zone.
So
I know that's backwards. But
when you were speaking as a mentalist, or were you speaking then as a financial advisor?
Speaking where?
Well, that's what I was going to say. Where do you speak, or whenever that you would do a presentation?
If Josh J., when we came back from COVID, I think he asked me, "Ken, we have this Magi Fest University," which I don't think he does anymore.
He doesn't. But that was a good idea.
It was a good idea.
Yeah.
And so I had to do
because it was kind of like workshops. It was great.
Right.
Little classrooms.
But it was basically just, 2 lectures. I did two lectures, and I loved it. I mean, it was fun. I go in, and I've done. Certain groups have asked me to lecture to them. There was a Coney Island one-day magic convention like that. So if they ask me and I know the people, I'll do it. And can you keep a secret?
Sure.
You look like a guy who can keep a secret. I was just with Ossie Wind, and he's doing a lecture, and it's the same thing. I said, "What are you lecturing on?" He said, "I don't know yet." Well, it's the same for me. So what happens is I'll have a few key points that I'm going to make, and then I encourage people to ask questions. Now, the book is loaded with concepts, and plus, Scott, I have mentored and or directed dozens or hundreds, I don't know the exact number, of performers, mostly professional performers. Meaning, I encourage people during my time in front of them in a magic convention to think of questions that relate to their performances. What are you dealing with? What are you curious about? What has been a problem for you? They ask a question and boom, that's 10 minutes. Because whatever they ask me,
right,
I know what they're talking about, and I've helped other performers get over that particular problem. Because I've just worked with many, many people.
I've talked with several performers who also teach or consult or whatever, and if they'll ask a question, a magician or a mentalist, whoever would ask a question of these people, they'll give them an idea, but then after a certain point, it's kind of like, hey, I've got a class that I'll teach, or I've got a fee. I mean, if you're going to demand more of my time for me to actually consult with you, are you kind of the same way? I mean, you'll freely give some advice to a point?
The answer is yes, only not for a financial reason. It's just
because of time.
Yeah, time. I'm not going to sit with you, and if I don't know you, especially, listen, it runs the gamut. I'll answer one question and then move on with life. Or if I know the person and there's a reason I want to work with him or her, I'll offer my services that way. I will tell you, this is sort of breaking news. I have now begun to charge a few people, and I'll tell you why. Not a lot of money, but I charge a bit. This is not my own discovery, but if you give somebody something for free versus they pay something for it, they value what they pay for. I've given my book to people that, young people generally, who I remember when I had no money, right? And so sometimes I'll give a book away, and then I'll meet them 6 months later. I'm up to chapter 2 and I like it, but I haven't gotten. Okay, fine. If they spent the damn $40, the same price it was in 2002, that price hasn't gone up.
Yeah.
If they spent that money, they'll read it more quickly.
Because they have an investment.
They have an investment in it, literal.
Financial investment.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. And so, also I'm starting to charge for my, mentoring because my time is tight. I'm in my 70s now and I'm saddened. I have clients and I have friends who say, gee, I'm retired and I don't know how to spend my time. I don't have enough time. I do so many things now, that if I'm going to say I'm going to help you, well, I'm sometimes very bad. They send me their video and I may not get to it for 5 weeks and I feel guilty. But if I know they wrote out a check or sent, Venmo, nobody writes checks.
Right. That's right.
Sorry, my age.
PayPal, Venmo, Zelle.
And I know, and I tell them, don't send it to me until I tell you I have watched the video and we're ready to move. Then I'll let you send it. Yeah. But I know if there's a financial commitment from them to me, I'm going to look at it differently as well. So it works both ways. I'm more literally invested in it, as are they.
When you see a performance, do you offer advice freely to someone after the show or only if they ask for advice?
Option B.
That's what I thought.
And Scott,
that's the way to go.
Scott, I will tell you, my friend, I see people all the time and I'm dying to say something. Please ask me. Just give me an opening.
Yeah.
Say, hey, Ken, anything you got a note? You got a note? And I know in my head I have 12 pages of notes. But,
yeah, buddy.
But here, I give two. I'll give 2 notes because I'll first.
Why? Why give them all 12 pages?
Shut up. What are you doing to me here? Listen, one of the differences between the original book and the 2.0 is there's a section in the back called How to Give
Advice.
Notes.
Notes.
And How to Receive Notes.
Yeah, I remember that chapter. I'm glad we're getting to this. Yes.
Yeah. And in both, when I say how to receive notes, the first thing, how to give notes, the first thing I say is always start with the good stuff. And Scott, that's not always easy.
You look good and you had, your breath was fine. Your nails were polished.
Yeah. Something like that. So, I do start with the good. And honestly, anybody who's going to come over to me and ask me, they're somewhere along the evolution. They're not total beginners, you know. So you start with the good stuff. But then if there's not a formal relationship, I'm just going to give 1 or 2 highlights, maybe 3 if it's appropriate and I feel that they are really into it. But sometimes, there are people here at Magi Fest, a good number that I have. They'll send me a 1-hour video or even a 20-minute video. And thanks to technology, I say, okay, I'm going to play your video. I'm in New York. They are wherever they are. And your act. I'm going to play it on the speaker so you can hear me. And I'm going to keep stopping every few minutes.
You do this over Zoom?
I have to think. Yeah, sometimes over Zoom and sometimes just over the phone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I'm going to start doing it more over Zoom. I don't do it over Zoom because I'm watching it on a computer and I'm not doing 2 computers.
I see what you're saying.
But they know their act.
Yes,
so they only have to hear it.
Yeah.
So, I've done 1 or 2 over Zoom, but it's just easier for me to just turn it on my computer. They hear themselves again, because it's on the speaker. So when you said that over there, whatever it is, I say, here's a better way to say it, more effective, or that was too long, or that was, you were rambling. Shorten that right there. Or right there, you turned at the wrong moment. And I tell them, record what I'm saying. I see people, if I'm giving them informal advice, they're nodding. Let's say it's after the show. And I know a week later, they've forgotten half of it.
Because it's too much, you mean? If it's kind of like,
yeah, it's too much.
Give them a drink from a fire hydrant. Yeah, they can't.
So here's a free tip for everybody who's listening. Just remember this. When I did Magi Fest University, one of the first things I said to them, I said, everybody take out either paper and pencil or your note.
We're all given notebooks. Yeah.
Well, your note on your phone.
On your phone, yeah.
Everybody's got a note function. I said, you're going to write down exactly what I say. You ready? Write these words. Ken Weber, write that down. Ken Weber says take notes, period.
I remember you saying that.
Now, keep going. Now you're going to say, next line, Ken Weber says take more, but put that in capital, more notes, exclamation point, close parentheses, close quotes.
Yeah.
Because, and then I explain what I mean by that. I am cursed that early on in my life, I took standardized tests like students do, and the teachers or whoever said, you're high up in the standardized tests, meaning you're kind of smart. That's a curse. And here's why. I'd be sitting there watching a lecture at a magic lecture or wherever it might be. That's great advice. There's no way I'll forget that.
I know where you're going with this.
Yeah, it's obvious. Yeah. A week later, what did he say about that?
What did he say?
Yeah, I'm a moron. I'm a freaking moron. And this is applied to my financial life, my show business life. Scott, I'm telling you, if I'm knock on wood, fairly successful in, excuse me, but if I had taken more notes in my life, more carefully, I would have been much more successful.
That's a good point. Note taking is important, and some of those notes should be put up like on your mirror to remind you of something,
right,
as well. You know,
but just the fact of writing it, and then you come back to it a week later. Oh, I forgot he said that.
That's the same thing about after a show that you might hear a line that somebody throws you in the audience. You're thinking, oh, I got to remember that.
Oh, I bring that up all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, I was a kibitzer. I was from the Catskill Mountains. I played with the audience, and all the time. Well, I'll never forget that line.
And next day, what was that again?
There's no chance in the world I remember that.
So you need to write them down.
Got to write them down immediately. Yeah.
What do you think about recording your dreams when you wake up in the morning?
Well, threw me for a loop there. I'm not a psychoanalyst. I have no idea.
I mean, sometimes you have an idea. It's like,
I know my dreams are wacky.
I had a silly idea in which that I was thinking about having a tennis racket, but making it like a folding coin. So this way that, that it would turn in such a way like a coin that could go through a mirror or something. And I remember sharing that idea with Shimada so many years ago because he was doing a stage. Of course, that tennis racket and Shimada don't fit together. I don't know why I was telling him about the idea, but it's one of those things I had as a dream, and I thought this seems to kind of make sense. And I was thinking of another one I told Franz Rory about. There was a tip over trunk. There was a sub trunk. I mean, not just tip over, but a sub trunk, that you can show empty, and then, somebody comes out, or you could exchange places or whatever.
Hey, listen, if it makes sense to you in the morning,
yeah,
typically you wake up and when you think about it, oh, that was ridiculous. But if it makes sense as you waken, why not? I'm not going to argue.
But you can also then kind of tweak that a little bit throughout the rest of the day, or you kind of go back, well, that was pretty stupid, but what if I did something else? And so that's why I think it's important to not only have that, but also a to-do list. If you got something you're going to be doing, do you use a to-do list in the morning or jot down things throughout the day?
I don't in the morning, but I said in the original version, write stuff down, have your notebook. And I ended one of the chapters by saying, you do have a notebook, right? I wanted to end the chapter right there to say that's an important point.
Which means if you don't, go get one right now.
Yeah. But listen, when I was in show business, we didn't have, a whole video and audio equipment right in your pocket.
That's true.
So what I say is, and still true, if you're driving to and from a gig, you're driving back, turn off the radio, turn off your podcasts, turn on your voice recorder. That's easy to do. And just free associate what happened during the show. What worked, what didn't work.
On the drive home.
On the drive home.
That's a good way to unwind, actually, and to download your brain of what you think happened.
Right. Right. Now, a lot of people don't drive home. They're on a cruise ship or whatever. For example, Bill Cook, right, out of Chicago.
Yep.
I met Bill, and he said, "Oh, Ken Weber, I love your book, blah, blah, blah." And he said, "You want to know something?" You said, you record your shows. He said, "I record every show." And I do not know if Bill still does this, but he said he goes home. I met him at the Magic Castle.
Yeah.
He said he goes home, he pours a bowl of cereal, milk, and he watches the show from beginning to end and takes notes. And Bill Cook has gone from being a nobody at the Magic Castle, which is oxymoron if you're at the castle, somebody, to doing, big shows around the world now.
Yeah.
So it worked for him, and I know it would work. I don't advocate recording every damn show.
Well, that was also something that Anderson was always talking about then as well. And as part-time pro, is be sure to record things. Of course, back then you'd be recording just with a cassette player.
Right.
And then, as you say, we all carry the phone. Then right now it's easy to record video and or audio with that and then watch it later. So it's probably a good idea to be recording those notes if you're going to be driving, as you had said, rather than trying to watch or listen to your show because you're not paying attention to driving.
The whole point, exactly. Don't get in trouble as a driver. But the point is somehow whether it's Ken Weber says take notes, or you're recording it on the way home, or, you're Bill Cook having your cereal, just the act of thinking about what just went down on the stage, what happened, close up, stage, whatever you're doing, just the act of making an effort reinforces that in your mind. It's important.
We're going to take a brief pause while we have a word from our sponsor, Tom Vorjahan, talking about the Winter Carnival of Magic. Winter Carnival of Magic, March 7th, 8th, and 9th is coming up to Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. And I know some of you who are listening to this are thinking, that's too far, or it's in the middle of nowhere, it's in the Smoky Mountains, or, where is that in Tennessee, or whatever. You're going to miss out if you don't go to this. This is a great convention. I've been several times in the past myself. And today I've got with me Mr. Tom Vorjahan, who's the main chief cook and bottle washer, who's going to tell us a little bit about it.
Hey, Scott, how are you doing?
I am great this leap day.
It is leap day. It is leap day. Like any other year, this day wouldn't exist. Well, every 4 years. But I'm very excited to talk to you today.
Yeah, maybe we'll get together again 4 years from now and talk about the convention again that's going to be happening then. But this is going to be the 49th edition, and I know next year is going to be 50th, and I don't know how you can really continue to knock it out of the park the way you do with the outstanding talent. So tell us even some of the people you've got coming up this year.
Well, Ring 58 of the International Brotherhood of Magicians been putting this on now 49 years, like you said. And if it is fun to find talent. You got to find guys who want to give back to magic. And I have a list that I think is incredible. Doug Kahn, the Evasons are going to be there. Steve Valentine, Bob Sheets is coming in. Jaffa is coming up from Florida. Andy Gladwin is coming in from England. Nick DeFott. We have a special lecture from David Ginn. Paul Richards will be a dealer as well as lecturing. Jason Hootie is going to be there, as well as my friend Ray Adams will be making his cameo appearance once again this year.
And that's just amazing. I mean, that's a lineup that would rival national conventions. And
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I can't believe that this is all being put together for the low price. What is it, $189 or something? Or
$189 for magicians,
wow.
And then $99 for non-magicians, whether they're children or spouses, girlfriends, boyfriends, whatever you got.
Yeah.
If they don't know how to do a double lift, or
that's right.
I guess they can get in for $99.
And there are going to be 8 lectures and 4 shows in 3 days. So tell me about that.
Yeah, 8 lectures, 4 shows, 2 competitions. And you say, how do you get 4 shows in 3 days? But the first night, Doug Kahn's doing an evening with Doug Kahn, so he'll be performing as well as lecturing. And then 1:00 on Friday afternoon, Bob Sheets is doing his one-man show. Because I didn't want to put him on an evening show. I wanted him to shine in his own spot. And just talking to Bob when I was out at Magic Live in August, that is going to be, well, that's worth your $189 right there. Well, shoot, I can say that about almost anybody on this line.
Yeah, Steve Valentine, everybody, right?
We talked about raising the price to $350, and especially as we head into these years going to 50, we're doing our best to keep it at $189. It helps us to cover the bills. If more people would show up, Scott, that's the key. So I really need anybody. It's not a bad flight if you have to fly into Knoxville, Tennessee. You could, if you want to make a weekend of it or a week of it or whatever, you can fly into Nashville. It's a 3-hour drive. If you fly into Atlanta, it's a 3-hour drive north. So there's different ways to get here. Look it up on a map. But wintercarnivalofmagic.com is the place to get all the details and stuff. And I just hope your listeners will go, yeah, let's go. It's a great convention. I'm biased, but it's a great convention.
There you go. Thanks, Tom. Thanks for that information. And again, as you said, wintercarnivalofmagic.com, March 7th, 8th, and 9th in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee.
Thanks, Scott. Happy Leap Day to you, man.
Right back at you, buddy. Now back to the rest of our conversation with our guest, Ken Weber. What are a couple of other key points in the book 2.0 that you would want to make sure people don't overlook?
That's a tough question. I'll tell you why.
It's like asking who's your favorite child.
Well, it's not even that. It's kind of like that. Let's go back a little bit. How did this book come about? And you mentioned Bob Cassidy early. Yeah. So here's how the book, and I was just talking to somebody this morning about this. Bob Cassidy and I were early members of the Psychic Entertainers Association, right? And again, the
Mm-hmm.
P.E.A., and we had nothing to do with magicians. We a little ostracized group in the magic world, the mentalists.
Mm-hmm.
But we were both pros pretty early in life. He finished legal, law school, but he wanted to be a full-time performer right from the start. Anyway, we would stand in the back of the P.E.A. shows, because like every convention, guys get up and do shows.
Right.
And we would make snide comments, where he's from New Jersey, I'm from New York. That's what we do. We live and breathe for
you bust each other. Yeah.
Snark and snide. Yeah. So we make snide comments under, quietly. And after a few years, I realized, well, this isn't helping anybody. It's just, we're pleasing ourselves by being obnoxious brats in the back, making these comments.
Yeah.
And, somebody said, well, why don't you write a book? Because then I started critiquing the shows publicly meaning just for the P.E.A. And they said, don't do it. People don't want to be, they have to be done in public. And the first time I did it, I got a standing ovation. And then they asked me to do it every year for like 7 years. But I said, I can't do a book because everybody's different. You see, so.
Yeah, but it's from your perspective.
Yes, but everybody's different. But the book came about because I realized after 7 years of doing it, certain themes
would develop.
Are the same. Yeah. There are certain things I'm saying again and again and again.
You're just beating that same drum, but saying it a different way.
Well, yeah, but a lot of guys made this mistake and a lot of guys made that mistake.
I see.
Yeah. So it's similar mistakes over and over. So that's how the book started. So when you ask me what shouldn't be overlooked, it's hard for me to say that because everything in the book comes from watching professional performers. When the original book was written, I don't go to magic groups, magic clubs. I was never really a member. Everything that's in the original and the 2.0 is only from watching professionals and how they can be better. But it's all different. So one guy makes this kind of mistake and another guy makes that kind of mistake and the third guy makes that other kind of mistake. And one is not better, so I'm trying to respond to your question. What is the thing I can't, I want to talk about?
Yeah.
Everything is important, which is why, again, going back to earlier, so many magicians, full-time performers say they carry the book with them and they read it once a year. A lot of people say they read it once a year. That's a done deal because as they evolve, chapter 2 meant nothing to them the first time they read it. Now chapter 2 means everything to them. I'm just pulling a number out of my head. So that's what I mean. So I'm not evading your question. I'm just telling you.
There are different things mean different importance to one person.
To me, nothing was in the book that was not important. There's no fluff in the book. And I tell people when you do your show, one of the most important chapters, sort of answering your question. I think it's chapter 3. I'm not sure, but it's about reactions. And I think this is one of my important points. And I bring it up with performers a lot. It's everything if you're talking especially, everything you say has to have a targeted reaction. It either has to be funny or dramatic or informative or fascinating. If it's not any of those, don't say it. And I see people all the time. I say communicate your humanity, but that's up to a point. We don't need to know your whole life story. You're only up there 20 minutes. I don't want to know 7 minutes of your backstory. So everything you do or say has to have a reason for it happening.
Okay.
Even if it looks informal. So that's one of those things. Targeted reactions. That's reactions is what it's all about. What reaction are you hoping for now? And you want to hone everything down. And in 2.0, I have a quote from Jerry Seinfeld, who says he works, he has some time on it, days or hours or something, to get a joke down by one word. To shave it down by one. What's the excess word or 2 words that you can do the same exact joke with the same exact impact in 7 words instead of 9 words?
I see.
And magicians need to learn that too. Especially my specialty is performers who speak. I'm not really a great don't hire me to do a
for methods and different ideas.
Well, don't hire me for methods because I'm not an inventor, and don't hire me for the silent acts, the non-speaking acts.
Okay.
So if you're a guy who dances around, produces doves and cards,
Get somebody else.
get somebody else. Yeah. I'm the guy with the microphone who's talking to the audience.
Yeah.
No matter what kind of microphone they use.
Yeah.
That's my specialty. So, but I want every moment to have a reason why you did that, why you said that. Easier said than done, but it's a never-ending process.
Well, I don't think that magicians in particular script things as much as mentalists do. Mentalists, I think, are more of a talking act. And that's why that I wrote an article about this many, many years ago about, I think mentalism is not as popular in the community because a magician, quote, can go and buy a trick today and put it in tonight's show. To be a mentalist, you actually have to talk and to get people's emotions involved and evoking, like Rolando Santos would say, evoking rather than provoking an emotion. So there's a lot more scripting to get to that point to make it the real mystery as opposed to pack a trick you buy today and do tonight.
Scott. You have opened up. Scott, so all my P.E.A. friends who are listening, how is Ken going to handle this question right now?
Okay. All right. I'll sit back and listen to this.
Well, you've really opened the can of worms. Where do I start? Yes. Back when I wrote the book, man, there was a dividing line between magicians and mentalists. And when I was a full-time mentalist, we had to explain to the booking agent or the college
what a mentalist is.
What a mentalist is.
Yeah,
and I have to say, did you ever see Kreskin on television? Yeah, well, it's something like that.
Yeah.
Now, every freaking magician in America, and probably Europe too, is a magician / mentalist. Because now, we had billet switches and we had our techniques, and now you
center
can
tears and all that.
Yeah, center tears and all that. And we all learned it and how to do it.
Yep.
And now you can spend some money on a piece of electronics. And there you are.
Yeah.
And I'm a mentalist. You're exactly right, Scott, that, and I've said this many times, people become mentalists because they think, quote, it's easy.
Oh, it's not easy.
We don't have to learn the pass, the invisible pass. We don't have to learn, diagonal palm shifts.
Right.
As a mentalist. But you're 100% right. We have to get into their heads what's going to make them have a reaction that they feel internally.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's why I think the beauty is of mentalism as well, that you could be, as you were talking about, speaking to a group of 800 to 1,000 people, you could reach the person in the very back of the audience with mentalism, unlike somebody saying, I have a coin up here, and they're saying, what? I'm just going to tune him out.
Right.
But you are reaching people with what you say as a mentalist that a magician cannot reach with their script.
Right. And so you're right that a mentalist they may not actually write it down, but they're thinking about that script a lot more than a lot of the magicians who are now /mentalists.
Yes. Yeah.
Because they bought something on Tuesday, and I'll give them credit. Not that night, Scott. Thursday. They waited till Thursday.
Well, they had to wait. The card got printed, so they could book a show.
Well, that too. Yeah. So you're right. The top mentalists really do work on the words because the words, a top mentalist has no props, at least in the mind of the audience. Mm-hmm. Then we may have props.
He comes on naked,
but it's a book.
Leaves. Yeah.
It's just a pad of paper. So to the audience, we walk out. I mean, I will tell you, when I was a full-time performer, I would walk out, and if it was a guy who was booking a lot of shows, a nightclub or a cruise, well, where are your props?
Yeah.
No, I just have this pad paper.
Clipboard. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't say clipboard.
Sorry.
A pad of paper, but, you're going to do an hour with that? Trust me.
Yeah.
And now what I did, I'm going to go back, and this is mentioned in 2.0. My bread and butter routine for most of my mentalism career was giant memory. The pad of paper had a large pad of paper, very large, 1 to 10 in a column, and then second half of the page, 11 through 20.
Okay.
And then I'd have a volunteer from the audience, preferably a former teacher, who would come up on stage. I'll call her Susan for today, and she'll be behind me. And then I'll have people in the audience raise their hand, and they'll give me any number that hasn't been filled in yet, and any word, any object that can be touched, anything in the world that can be touched. And I make some obscene gesture with my hands, just,
Yeah.
But I just get a laugh out of that. But anything in the world can be touched. And I'll say, for example, Somebody over here might say number 15, chair. Susan in big block letters will write the word chair. Somebody in the back might say number 12, table. And Susan will write in capital letters the word table. Now you can give us words like table or chair. But folks, you're all adults. It just has to be anything that you can touch in the world. Use your imagination. Let's have some fun. What's the first word? And we're off and running. So I never see the words behind me. And when they're all filled up, I give Susan a pointer. Again, I never look back there. And as now, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands down. You're going to give us one of the numbers from 1 to 20. Susan will point it out. I will hopefully give back the correct word before she can even find it to point it out. So number 3. Number 3 was shoe. Was from the gentleman back here. Was a brown leather shoe from Tom McCann. Mm-hmm. You remember Tom McCann?
Of course I do.
Most people don't.
Yeah, like Buster Brown shoes and all. Yeah,
right.
Red ball jets.
So every word. Most of the words were not only the main word, but adjectives to fill it in and make it more interesting. So the whole board was just filled with words. Sure. But I did it was legit.
Yeah, you memorize it.
It was from, the old mnemonic systems. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And here's a little anecdote for your listeners. I would do on the Norwegian cruise line. This is my first gig. I'm 24 or 5 years old. And, I was the afternoon entertainment. So they either came before lunch or after lunch. So I do the 20 words, legit memory.
Yep.
Maybe, 45 minutes between shows. And there's a live band who play me off and play me on. And they would play music at the end as I'm going down the list. And then I do the second, and I have to memorize a whole new group. Every once in a while, Scott. I'm just talking to friends now, right? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, number 15. 15. I remember number 15 from the
last show. Yeah.
Oh, crap.
Yeah.
But I had ways I could, come back to it or something. I had little techniques.
That's the problem with the magazine test, of having to forget the magazine that you had just memorized.
Right.
Now you got to memorize this week's Newsweek or Time or whatever.
The advantage of a magazine test, which I keep promising I'm going to do one day.
That's a great act.
It's a great act where for those who don't know, you take a magazine like Time magazine and you memorize every page. By memorize, you mean much of it. You don't memorize it word for word.
Just some keywords and pictures and pages.
And the advantage is, unlike my legitimate giant memory that I did as it was happening, at least when we're doing the magazine memory, you can be backstage and start, checking yourself.
Correct.
To see, do you have it? So you can keep doing it before you set foot on the stage.
Yeah. When I talk with people who have done that, they said that the main problem is, again, trying to forget the other one that you had memorized from before.
Yeah. I remember nights when I was up in the Catskill Mountains, I did 3 shows a night. And I had nights when at 1 a.m. in the Catskill Mountains at the bungalow colonies. I remember number 15 from show number 1. Mm-hmm. I remember number 15 from show number 2. I have no freaking idea.
you go to bed with those numbers kind of in those associated things.
Thankfully, that only happened a few times in my career went on. But those are the nights I was going to quit show business. Yeah. Because it was just embarrassing as hell.
Well,
my point, I just want to finish. My point was that mentalists of that school, we knew mnemonics, we knew day for date or instant calculations. We did things that were true mentalism, mind power. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, for better or worse, there's been a shift to
electronics.
I buy it on Tuesday. I can do it on the weekend.
Because they're electronic things. And if you could afford that.
It seems easier to do, but it's the script that's everything. The trick is nice, but it's the script that makes or breaks it.
If you watch somebody like Paul Vigil, for an example.
Honestly, he is highly skilled.
He is amazing.
Right.
Yeah. Sleight of hand and sleight of tongue. I'm just saying his scripting for everything. He has a great presentation for it. And it sounds like, man, I want to just kind of sit and listen to this guy talk.
Well, that's a great compliment.
Yeah.
And that's, I remember reading certain novels, Sophie's Choice, great novel. And somebody asked me, I was 50 pages into it, and what's it about? And 50 pages in, literally nothing had happened.
No.
Nothing had happened. It was just 3 people living in Brooklyn.
Just setting it up. Yeah.
But it was such beautiful literature. The English language was used in a way that made you want to listen. Well, the best performers, and there's only a few, and there's almost none, but there's a few who understand that the power of the word is everything. Mm-hmm. Again, I'm saying I specialize in people who talk along with their tricks,
Sure.
But yeah, what you say is important, and the words you say should not simply be sort of the filler to get you from this trick finale to that trick finale. There should be a reason why you're saying everything. Make it funny, make it dramatic, make it fascinating, make it interesting. And if it's not any of those, get rid of it.
It sounds like something that was Ken, in your DNA. I mean, you were talking about doing this in the Catskills, and so you've been doing it on the cruise ships when you were very young. It sounds like that you jumped right into mentalism to begin with rather than magic.
Well, that's a good point. I was, I think, 16 or 17, and I had seen some other young magician do the giant memory. Mm-hmm. And I was actually the person writing the stuff on the board.
Yeah.
How is he doing this? And he said, here, it's in this book. And, I guess I have a gift for gab because it can be very boring to do that type of thing, getting words. I keep
just like a Knight's tour.
Yeah. Which I did a few times too.
Yeah. But if you don't do it right, that can be boring.
Yeah. And by the way, Lior Minor sells a Knight's tour. I wrote the instructions for it.
Well, he has done something for me. He worked at a trade show using a Knight's tour on a big television screen. Right. And I had him develop, the logo so yeah.
That's right.
I love Lior.
Yeah. But, we all love Lior Minor. But the words are important. I forgot where we were going just then, but.
No, talking about you were doing magic to begin with. You saw someone as a magician actually when you were like 16 or 17.
I had the gift for gab. I know there's many, many, many things in this world I can't do. I can't do good manipulations. I can't play an instrument. I play rhythm guitar not well, and I'm certainly not an athlete. But I can stand in front of an audience and talk and make them laugh and have fun. Mm-hmm. So when they give me words, I can have fun with those words.
Yeah.
Like that. If somebody gave me number 14 car, I'd say, what brand? Plymouth? What model? Duster? Okay. What color? How many? And I point to a woman. This is really, really bad. Don't publish this. Cut this out of the tape. Promise me you'll cut it out of the tape.
Are you serious?
No, I'm not serious. But first of all, there's no tape. Secondly, and this was certainly 30 years ago, before 40 years ago. And I would say, I point to the women, how many horsepower? 8 out of 10 times the woman would say, I don't know. Well, name a number. They'd say 8.
Okay.
See, you laugh.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'd say, oh, she thinks they're real horses.
Oh.
It was a stupid joke.
Yeah. But at the time, it might have been
for the time and place.
Yeah.
Oh God, I can't believe I just said that. But anyway, there was always, no matter what they say, but you'd fill in all that information. So the board was filled with stuff. And I wish some guys would get back to that, because there are performers out there who can keep the audience.
Sell that.
Yeah, can sell it. And
it's like the guy who does the telephone book. You just name a area code and he can tell you or zip code, I guess it is.
Yeah, zip code.
Yeah, zip code act.
Which
does that.
Blows my mind. There's a few guys doing it, and there's different techniques, but I think a couple of them are doing it legit.
Yeah. It's amazing. Well, a fellow who we have here at the convention this week is Arthur Benjamin.
Yeah.
And I worked with him actually in Bath, England. I was emceeing in his show and got to know him backstage quite well. I'm anxious to have a chance to chat with him then, because he has a completely different act of having to do with math. And normally people don't know math.
I saw Arthur work once, and he's mind-boggling.
He is.
Yeah, in an entertaining way. He's
faster than a calculator.
Number stuff, and you don't want it to end. You don't want the show to end.
Right, and it is very entertaining. You're right. And I think it has a lot to do with his scripting then as well. I mean, it's not just the fact that he's faster than a calculator, but the things that he builds up, one on top of the other, that just continue to build like that. There was Hitchcock, who had Mentalism Incorporated. What's his name?
Oh, no, Chuck Hickok.
Chuck Hickok. Thank you. Chuck Hickok had in his book was talking about, it's kind of like not a branching anagram. What I'm trying to say is his was just kind of building. So in other words, if you believe that I have this power, and then it's okay, I can believe that, then you have something else that's a little bit less harder to believe. But if you start at the end, it's completely unbelievable. People are not going to buy that. But if you kind of script it such that you add more onto it at the end when it seems like it's impossible, it's like, but I've kind of proven by building these building blocks.
Chuck is an old friend, and that book was a great book, Mentalism Incorporated, and he had another one. I forget the title.
I think number 2.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Rules are rules, and you can break rules. Mm-hmm. But if you know why you're breaking them. So
true.
What Chuck said there, what you just repeated, well, you said it well. I didn't follow that script. I think you can start with something powerful if there's a reason. Mm-hmm. And then here's a tip for mentalists and since every magician is a mentalist now.
Yeah.
Here's something that drives me crazy. It's referred to in 2.0. you can't sweat. You can't say, here's a pad of paper that has some famous actors in it, and it's a Sven pad.
Yeah.
And they're not even that big. And open it up. Okay. Do you have an actor or an actress? Okay. I get the feeling it's a man, right? Okay. And then they're struggling. But we know it was a small pad. So right away, there's only 12 possible. And then you say, I'm getting a T. Is there a T? Yeah. Well, it's your damn pad.
Yeah.
And then the next thing you do is think of your first girlfriend's name. So you went from a very finite number of choices to an infinite number of choices. A girl's first name could be anything, in any spelling. Dude, there's no logic there.
That's like a mental epic. Then you end up like with a playing card or something.
Which I actually did on the cruise ships, and thinking back on it it's very embarrassing. Yeah. But that was my force. I needed a force at the end.
In other words, if you can do all these other things, then you end up with just a playing card.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing what you're talking about.
Thanks for embarrassing me. That was literally how I did on the cruise ships. But I was young. and stupid. Okay. Leave me alone.
You're forgiven.
Yeah. If I knew back then what was in the book, I would have not done that. It didn't help.
And so again, that you continued on really with mentalism and never really did magic, but then started helping some other people with their mentalism routines. I know that people look to you for advice. And
I'll just say, when I coach, it's sometimes mentalists, and it's often magicians. I mean, my life was, I'm a magician at heart, right?
Mm-hmm. All right.
So when I help people, they can be a magician and or mentalist. I work with both, and I'm equally invested in their success.
Yeah. One of the things is completely different. You talk about the P.E.A., which I think is important organization, but there was another group of mentalists. Is it the 7 or something? That's
the 13?
The 13.
Yeah.
Is that a group that's still around?
Scott Wells, you're killing me, Scott.
Not supposed to talk about it?
That was like 50 years.
Yeah.
And then COVID came, and we basically haven't met since then.
Okay.
But it started like 50, 60 years, long before me, 70 years ago.
How did one get into that 13? Or did they get into that?
You were invited.
Okay.
It was a New York
because someone died and then they kind of had an opening? Or
people think there were 13 members. No, there were 17 at some points.
Okay.
It became 13 because originally they met on the first and third Saturday.
It was only in New York, right?
The New York, New Jersey area.
Yeah.
But remember, back then there was no internet. To be a mentalist, you couldn't wait for your issue of Bascom Jones's Magic, M-A-G-I-C-K.
Yeah.
Magic with a K at the end.
I got out the books.
You would wait for that to come once a month or twice a month. I forget now.
Yeah.
And or a Corinda book or whatever it might be. You waited for that to come, and you had no means of talking to other mentalists. So to have a group like that who you do what I do, that's incredible. You love those books too. So we met, but after COVID, and now you can have a Zoom meeting and we do. I have a small group that meets. We have people in Israel and California and New York, and we meet sort of once a week.
You still call the 13, even though it's expanded?
It's just a different group that got together.
So 13's kind of before COVID or during, dissipated.
It has dissipated. I hope it gets back together.
Yeah.
We had some great people.
Did you put some books together?
No, we never did.
That's too bad.
The closest we did that I can tell you about. Do you want a scoop for your listeners?
Of course I do.
I'll give you a scoop. I don't know how much of a scoop it is, but here's the story. So Ted Karmelovich.
Yes.
Ted K is people. He was far and away our most innovative member.
Mm-hmm.
And this is back 20 years ago. I can't remember. But he kept saying he's working on a new book test. Okay, fine. Everybody has book tests. And he said, this is going to be the mother of all book tests. And why did he say that? Because back then was during the first Kuwait invasion by Iraq. And Saddam Hussein said, if America invades us or fights, it'll be the mother of all battles. And that was headlines. Mm-hmm. That Saddam Hussein threatened America and Kuwait. It'll going to be the mother of all battles. Everybody knew that phrase.
Yeah.
And Ted Karmelovich said he's going to produce the mother of all book tests. That's how that title came.
I see. Interesting.
And one day, 2 or 3 of us were going into the city by train. I stopped going in by train, but we were going in by train, Long Island Railroad. Roy Miller, who, great guy. And somebody else, we were talking. We said, well, what's going to be and we went a mother, what it should entail. Anyway, so there's maybe 8 or 10 of us at the meeting. And Ted gives me the book. We have no clue what's going to happen here. So he gives me a hardbound novel.
Yeah.
Okay. And we all know the techniques. He's going to have a pin in there, or he's going to force a page, or he's going to write something down.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Ken, think of any word. Pick one longer word just to make it fun. Okay. Now, I'm going to have to write it down or something. And he goes, okay, the first letter is B. I say, no. Wow. Now, over on the side, Jerry McCambridge,
mm-hmm.
who's Las Vegas, Jerry McCambridge,
mm-hmm.
he starts going like this. Now, so my arm is going up and down here. That's what your listeners can't tell. I said, what are you doing? And Jerry goes, he's pumping.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. Because I said, no, there's no B. It's not the first letter is B. And, he said, okay. So he takes out a big pad and he writes a word. You know, and I say what the first letter is, but I'm waiting for him to have me write it down or having something, the usual techniques. And I say, you know, what was the word? And thunderstorm, whatever it was. And he turns around the pad and it's thunderstorm. Scott, here's the part that your listeners don't know, because thousands of them have a version of the book test.
Right.
The 8 other people in the room just continue talking.
As if it was just on every other day.
Another trick, and he's going to tell us, and we're going to find out that he stooged me or something. I had guys. Stop.
You know what just happened here?
Wait a minute. Do you understand what just happened? This is a novel. This is before desktop publishing was a thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just in its infancy.
Uh-huh.
And he told me to go to any page. Guys. And I recapped what just happened. He then explained what he did. He wrote an entire novel.
Mm-hmm.
A novel.
Yeah. 300
pages, completely gimmicked. And you could go to any page, and the 8 of us that were left gave him a standing ovation. Never happened before or since,
mm-hmm.
but we were totally blown away. And we kept it to ourselves for 5 years.
Really?
Yeah. So out in the collector's world, there were actually 3 different versions of Mothers that only the 13 has.
Mm-hmm.
So someday those will be in the Smithsonian of magic.
Of mentalism somewhere.
Of mentalism somewhere. Yeah. And we have different words, which is why I don't know. I think thunderstorm is one of the commercial words, but I don't know the word. Optometrist, I know is one. We had our own. I wrote one myself that I did for the group. And it's not easy to come up with the things that are necessary to produce that correctly.
Yeah, for the words to actually make sense.
And then so they can
if you
flip
read
through
the text. Yeah,
it can't start the same line every time as on the pages. It had to always be different. If you read it, how to make sense.
I wouldn't say it's easier now, but
bookbinder, you had to get the right bookbinders.
Yes,
to make it look professional.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, you were saying?
Yeah, I'm just saying that it's a little bit easier now. Still not easy, but
it's way easier now
than when he was doing it at the time.
Right,
and for him to have actually had that printed and bring that in and pull that on you guys, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Ted had a lot of really interesting ideas.
Ted, we miss him dearly. He was a great guy and a good performer.
Yeah.
I remember at a MINDvention, he gave a lecture, and when he said, I only have 50 copies, or it was a stampede, literal stampede to get online to get the. I'm going to close. We're getting to the end.
We are.
Right?
I was going to say yes.
Okay. I'm going to give you one of the funniest moments of my life. It's related to mentalism and magic.
Okay.
And not many people know this story. So it was the P.E.A. and our guest of honor was Darren Brown.
Mm-hmm.
The Darren Brown. He came in. We gave him an award, but anyway, my friend Bob Baker, who's here, who's in the P.E.A., he's a great mentalist, but he's also a ventriloquist. And he and I came up with this act to do for the P.E.A., which at this point is maybe 40 people in the audience.
Okay.
And I think I heckled him from the audience to say, oh, that's not difficult. I don't remember. This is 20 years ago or more. Anyway, I end up with Oscar, the vent puppet, on my lap.
Okay.
And Bob's going to go into the audience and do mentalism. So, and the puppet's
going to say something.
The puppet's going to talk.
Yeah.
And all I know is how to go up and down with my finger to make the lips move. That's all I know. I'm not a ventriloquist.
Yeah.
And he goes over to different people. He's doing different things. And then he goes to Darren Brown and asks if he has any sort of dollar bill. Yeah. And it's American money. Mm-hmm. And he takes one out and he asked Oscar if he can, read the bill. And if I can read the bill, and the first number, Darren, would you stand up? First number is 4 and then 7. Now, at this point, the audience is laughing because the mentalists pick up on it, and I'm drinking water.
Yes. Okay.
I'm drinking a glass of water.
Somebody's mouth moving. Yeah.
He's telling the serial number.
Yeah.
Darren, I swear to God, this is true, told us for the first 10, 15 seconds, he said, how did that dummy know the serial number? Bob is there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the next thing, number 3, 2, 4. And I'm just up there on the stage.
Yeah.
And Darren Brown was fooled for 15 seconds.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
That's it.
Well, to close the podcast, the name of my podcast is called The Magic Word. I always like to ask my guests what is your phrase? What is your magic word? Not necessarily a word, but what is it that is your philosophy?
I didn't know you were going to throw that at me, but fortunately I have an easy answer because the working title of Maximum Entertainment, the working title was Raise Your Level.
Ooh, I love that.
Yeah. So that was the working title because if you're down here, and my hand's down here.
Right.
If you're down here, you can be here. But if you're up here, you can still get up here.
Even higher.
You can always get a little higher.
Yeah.
No matter where you are in life or in show business, just intentionally, mindfully raise your level.
Love that. That is a good thing for life.
You're welcome.
Ken, thanks very much for your time and your effort, your words, and everything that you've shared here today. I think everybody's going to get a lot out of this. I certainly do.
I hope so. Thank you. It's always fun, Scott.
Thanks again. So, for the Magic Word Podcast, that was Ken Weber talking about Maximum Entertainment and 2.0. This is Scotty out. Thank you, Ken, for being my guest this week on the Magic Word Podcast. And thank you in particular for offering a book, Maximum Entertainment 2.0, as a free gift for someone who would be a lucky winner. All you have to do is go to themagicwordpodcast.com. There you will see a form you can complete with your name and email address. And if your name is randomly selected, then he will send you a copy of his book. And if you reside outside of the United States, you can still enter. However, just be aware that if your name is randomly selected, you'll have to reimburse him for the foreign postage. He'll let you know what the postage is going to be beforehand, so you'll kind of have an idea of how much to pay. And if you elect not to, then we will draw another winner. Well, this has been not just a special episode because we've got Ken involved, but also because it's a leap day, which means this is a leap year. We have an extra day here this year, and it happens every 4 years, but it's falling on a Thursday. This is very unique because it only happens every 28 years. So it's not going to be happening again until 2032. So I believe it is. So you'll have, I don't know if I'll be around then to still doing the podcast, but with your support, God's help, and the creek don't rise, perhaps I might still be here. Who knows? In the meantime, if you'll make sure that you subscribe to the pod letter, help us with your financial support, like us on all of your social media, as well as giving us 5-star ratings and good comments on your iTunes or whatever platform you listen to, that'd be greatly appreciated. All right, we need to get out of here. This has been a longer podcast than what I had intended for this to be, but it's been great. I hope that you enjoyed it as well. So until next week, stay well, get booked, and remember to raise your level. This is Scotty out.